Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about three major systems that will be going through the country, one of which is currently happening in the Midwest. But then we have this second system, which we have winter storm watches, winter storm warning, and winter weather advisories for already. And then we have a third one, which could be a major nor'easter for parts of the very populated I-95 corridor, which would include DC, Philly, New York, Boston, and all in between, with major amounts of snow if everything sets up properly. It is far out right now, currently impacting around Wednesday, Thursday timeframe, but this storm could bring huge impacts to travel. What are we, a couple weeks before Christmas? This is huge, and we're going to talk about it a lot today. So if you want more coverage on this huge nor'easter, make sure to click that subscribe button and that bell icon to make sure that you get every single notification when I post something. And I will be making a video when either of these systems get named. Next name on the list would be Winter Storm Flynn. So let's get right on into it. Let's talk about systems 1 and 2 on the NAM 3-kilometer model. So here is system 1. Low pressure is currently in Ontario, Canada, but we can still see some snow in northern Maine, as well as some rain on the east coast. So you can see there some freezing rain risk in Maine as well, and then that kind of starts to roll off the coast. We start to see system number 2 come into play. Currently the low pressure is in the Rockies. That's going to roll on out here, bringing some snow to Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and then it starts to draw up that moisture from the Gulf. We could see some of that getting turned over into that cold side, into snow, possibility for some heavier snow bands in there as it starts to roll across. Now this thing's still trying to form here at 1,007 millibars, but that snow threat could see 3 to 5 inches of snow in some areas that rarely see snow this time of year. Now this thing tries to form into a nor'easter here. You can see that snow starting to come into play here. The big thing here is those major cities again. So the cold air seems to be a little bit further north than those big cities for this system, but you can see the snow is starting to come into play here. A little bit too warm in DC, a little too warm in Philly, but you could see a turnover. New York is still a possibility for some snowfall. Boston, you will probably see snowfall if the moisture is there. So if there's enough moisture getting pulled up from that system right over here, plus some of the ocean effect, maybe this storm system will pull up some more moisture from the Atlantic. Those ocean waters are a little warm right now, and maybe bring in some extra snowfall. If we go back a model run, this thing is completely taking out this whole section here from the picture. So let's go back to that. So you can see here, you have that snowfall in the Appalachians and into interior Pennsylvania and New Jersey, but it doesn't have Boston getting anything, not even any precipitation. So you can see here that we have this possible minor nor'easter before the major nor'easter. This can add a couple of inches here. So if we go to the current model run, you can see some heavier snowfall, well, light to moderate, I would say, but still that packs a punch. As we go to the end of this model run, you can see that next low pressure starting to form for system 3. So total positive snow depth change, you can see 1 to 2 inches, not much, but still this snowfall in the northeast here will stick around for the next system. So if you have that snow on the ground, that cold air in place, that means that as soon as it starts snowing for this next system, it's going to be accumulating, which means that you can get the maximum amount of snow from the next system, other than the areas that have already been cleared, like the roads, the sidewalks, everything. So this system here, system number 2, would be impacting the northeast on Monday. Now, the next couple of hours here, Sunday, would be that Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas threat, but that could even extend into parts of Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee. This entire stretch here could see some minor snow amounts, but still that makes an impact, especially if it's Sunday night getting ready for that Monday morning commute. So that is a very interesting factor that we have to take into account here. So with that, let's talk about the real reason you're here. This major nor'easter that could be happening midweek for the major population centers. So let's take a look at system number 3. So here's the GFS, right? We have system number 1, system number 2. That kind of all goes according to the NAM, pretty much. A little bit of a difference there. But then we start to get into system number 3. Here's the low pressure. You see it starts to roll across. Some areas that have already gotten hit with that system number 2 are getting hit again. Maybe a little bit further north too, so you guys get some snowfall. But the heavy snow really isn't there. This thing really isn't formed up properly. Kind of just some moisture out there. Now you get this low pressure right here. 1,009 millibars. Pretty weak. Now, you can see here, it starts to strengthen a little bit. But you have enough Gulf and Atlantic moisture to bring some heavy snowfall to parts of Virginia, DC, Maryland, Delaware, even into Pennsylvania. This low pressure is still down there in Georgia. So, let's go back there. This thing moves out into the Atlantic. 1,004. If this thing could stay put, that would be great. Alright, now, this is where we get a little bit interesting here. Low pressure kind of stays back, right on the coastline here. Areas like Boston, Connecticut, New York City, Philadelphia, getting some snow. But then this thing really starts to generate some real strength here as it moves off the coast, according to the GFS. Now, you can see that in this model run, Maine gets left out. This thing just kind of tracks a little bit too far south. You would expect from this track here that it's gonna come up this way. Take this track right up the coastline and parts of interior Maine, basically all of Maine except for the very down east part of Maine, would get some major snowfall. But it kind of takes this little turn here toward the straight on east. Instead of going northeast, like most nor'easters do, we have this kind of shift in this track. Now, when that happens, it gets very interesting, because if it gets a little too early, Boston, you're left out of the picture. If it happens even earlier than that, New York, you're left out of the picture. So that makes things very interesting here. When this happens here, when we get this kind of comma head 7 shape here, that's when this thing gets really strong, and that's usually when we would see this thing start to go straight east, or east-northeast. So the timing of that is very important. Let's go to the European model. So, you have system number 1, system number 2, pretty much the same here. Is this the correct model? No, we want to go here. Alright. So, it's already jumping the gun a little bit. So, system number 3 kind of starts out pretty normal here, trying to generate some moisture there. Alright, so, low pressure right here, 1,008 millibars. Now, you can see, look, this thing's already off the coast, but it kind of stays back. It kind of shifts back a little bit. If it was following this normal trajectory, it would be going like this. So if it hugs the coastline a little bit, that low pressure kind of shifts right there. Boom. So that means that it's going to try and go east-northeast. Now, with that, you can see it kind of strays away from that overall trend. And even it goes back onto land. That means that this back side here kind of gets shunned a little bit. And that would mean that areas like Boston wouldn't get those highest snow totals. Those higher snow totals would then move to areas of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, maybe even out to Long Island a little bit more. So areas like Boston, interior New York here, like Westchester, most of Connecticut would not get those maximized snow totals. So let's go back. Let's look at both of these snow total amounts. So let's start with the European. What does the European think for snow depth? So we're going to go to about 144. Boom. So you can see here, most of that major snowfall, 24 inches plus, from West Virginia through Virginia. DC gets a little bit, probably 14 inches. Philly, you get about 18. New York City, you get about 17. Looks like. Boston, you get 4 or 5. Parts of Southern Connecticut gets 7. So you can see that dramatic cutoff. Southern Connecticut is not that far away from New York, but then you're talking the difference of 10 inches of snow. At least. That's like maybe an hour away. So you can see that it's taking that normal trajectory and kind of just cuts off. You think that this line here is kind of abnormal, but based on the track of the system, that could be what we're talking about here. So let's look at the GFS. GFS kind of had that shift going a little bit later. So boom, right around there. So you can see with the GFS, DC, you're getting about 4 to 6 inches. Philadelphia, you're getting about 5 to 7 inches. New York, you're getting about that 12 to 18 inches. Southern Connecticut's getting about 12 to 18 as well. And then Boston, you're getting about 8 to 13. So, very different in terms of the models. And this is very interesting. We gotta watch this as it starts to develop here. These models become more advanced with each run and start to distinguish this thing a little bit more. So, that's all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.